Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV pilot's license with service to the supernatural. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that while we don't expect any mid-flight disturbances, we would recommend telling your partner you love them just in case they suddenly appear on the ceiling mid-flight and spontaneously combust.
Welcome to the TV pilot's license. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Max Singer and Rich Inman. How are you boys doing today?
Jeff, I'm so relieved today's destination is the supernatural. I thought you were going to say Lawrence, Kansas, or worse, God forbid, Palo Alto, California.
Rich, how are you?
I'm great. We gotta stop leaving these Boeing references to the things that could go wrong on this flight.
I'm just saying, I'm not getting on that plane. Well, boys, this week we are diving into the show Supernatural, but before we get a little bit spooky, it appears that there is a woman on the side of the road wearing white saying that she can't go home. You think we should let her on the episode? Our guest pilot this week is a returning co-pilot, as this will be her fourth time on the podcast. Woo! She acts, you see her in commercial, and she writes. Please welcome Korama Danquah. Korama, welcome back.
Thank you. It's true. I cannot go home. I'm I'm in my house, but am I really home? That's the question.
Damn. That's the most LA thing you've ever said.
A chair is just a chair. For my Broadway heads. All right. Well, yes. Korama, we were texting. You brought us Supernatural. Tell us your relationship with this show.
We were texting is a very generous interpretation of me sending you guys a text like in the dead of night saying, boys, I have one word for you. Supernatural.
And I looked it up and it was indeed one word.
Yes, no, I made sure before I sent it. I was like, God, how embarrassing would it be? But Supernatural.
I have one word, Grey's Anatomy.
Supernatural is a show that's near and dear to my heart. I watched all 15 seasons. I love a long-running show.
Whoa.
I think every show that I have covered with you guys has been more than 5 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a true fact that you have just stated.
Glee is 6. I think Scandal 7. Grey's is currently on season 20, renewed for season 21, baby! And then we have Supernatural
I'm so excited for our Gunsmoke episode with you.
We're doing Doctor Who next. I don't know what you're talking about.
All the Degrassis.
Please. If you do Degrassi The Next Generation,
have
me on. I have a lot of thoughts about Emma.
Drake's already given us a call. He said he wanted to be on the episode.
Fair.
He sent
we can have two.
A very weird video as well with that.
Timely. But Supernatural is really interesting because when I think about it as a finished show and the time span that it covers and the fact that it completed its run during COVID, like in peak COVID, it's just a weird time capsule of those 15 years. And I like watching the pilot again. I'm like, wow, this is so visually different than the finale. This is so but it is a consistent show in its DNA and in its heart, I feel.
What strikes you as like how tied it is to the time in which it was filmed? Because it starts in 2005, ends in 2020. What is is it the fashion? Is it the music? Is it like...
it is definitely not the music. The music never left the 70s.
Got it.
Hell yeah.
But I would say technology, just rewatching the first episode, seeing them with paper maps in a car with handheld flashlights. I'm like, wow, the smartphonery has not yet hit us.
They're going on to MapQuest. They're printing out those maps.
Yeah.
One person's yelling at another saying you missed the turn. That's just how it works.
It's amazing we survived the MapQuest era in total.
Yeah.
Well, Korama, we're so excited to dive into this show, but for folks who have just found our podcast for the first time, or maybe are here to listen to Korama wax poetically about Supernatural, Max, what is this podcast all about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn a little bit more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more, and if we think they can be made today, go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you get podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And Rich, what is your question of the week this week?
Yeah, so I texted all of you this because I feel like this is hard to do off the cuff, but I wanted to know what is the supernatural apparition or being or anything like that that you wish you could die from? and you can give a succinct reason why. You don't have to. I can go first because I feel like this is it's a tricky and weird one. I think last week I surprised all of you guys with with the tone of it. But for me, I'm going poltergeist. I have to say, if you ever hear about someone dying nicely at home, surrounded by family, poltergeist is the way to go. Plus, you get to watch TV while you do it. I mean, it's pretty not bad.
I mean, this is such a morbid question, but why not?
Doesn't have to be.
I am going to have to pick the Loch Ness Monster. Let me explain. Because
doesn't have to be morbid. Just want to get eaten by a creature.
Let me explain. I at least get a kick-ass trip to Scotland out of this equation, and it's a beautiful country, right? Like I get to go to Scotland. Maybe I'm swimming in the loch, and then I get eaten, and that's fine.
Do you know this is going to happen to you? Is this like a Joe versus the volcano situation with Tom Hanks, where it's like, I get to go to a tropical island, but I'm going to get sacrificed to the volcano?
No, you will be surprised.
Or do you just happen to get surprised and eaten by Nessie?
I sort of see this as like I get contacted by... I feel like Scotland, I'm not the smartest guy. Scotland has a prime minister. Let's pretend they do.
It's the prime minister of the UK.
Yeah, the prime minister of the UK shoots up.
Tony Blair?
No, there's so many different ones.
His name is Rishi Karnak, I think.
That's correct.
Tony Blair was like 2000.
God, you guys are doing so much for the Scottish independence movement right now.
Tony Blair was around when this show first debuted, to give you an idea of how long it's been. But like, he gives me a call. He's like, "Hey Jeff, would you like to just like go for a swim on an all expenses paid vacation to Scotland?" And it's just like, yeah. And he's like, "By the way, you have to do it at this specific time, at this specific hour. And then like all of Scotland will be like really grateful for you." And I feel like it's sort of like a sacrificial thing. Just like,
It seems like the Scottish version of the movie Contact, where they just like send her to potentially they know she's gonna die. It was like 100%. They knew she was gonna die. They're like, we need one human sacrifice, and it's going to be, oh my god, who is it? Jodie Foster? No.
Yes,
Jodie Foster. I did it.
It's an amazing movie. Max, I'm curious from your perspective, what is your supernatural?
I don't know if this is a verb, but I'm going to make it a verb. I want to be leftovers.
Oh my god!
Like the rapture?
Just
rapture.
Just disappear. I'm here and then I'm gone with 2% of the population. That's it.
Okay, wait. So you stay alive, right?
Well, he goes to heaven, hypothetically.
He doesn't want to be left over. He wants to be leftovers.
I want to be leftovers.
Okay.
He does not want to watch everyone else go. He wants to be one of the chosen few.
No, I don't wish to be one of the leftovers. I want to be leftovers. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's
I got you, Max. I understood from jump. I was like, yes,
I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Maybe I don't want to be Loch Ness. Karama, what is your thought?
So I have two answers.
Okay.
One, the regular answer is vampire, cheat code. I'm undead now.
I was thinking about
that. I get to be hot forever and drink the blood of my enemies. The other answer is within specifically the supernatural universe, because when Rich asked the question, I was like, I have follow-ups. if I had to pick within the supernatural universe, which was not the prompt, I would pick jinn specifically because the jinn that exists in the world of supernatural, and you're not supposed to call them genies, that's bad, but jinn, they like poison you and put you into a fantasy world of your own creation.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Whoa.
that sounds nice.
Whoa.
I get to believe that I'm living my best life. I get
Yeah.
to live in like a cool house in Mexico City and spend every day eating tacos and going to museums. That
It
sounds
sounds like you're in
life.
a coma.
It's almost
A
like a
little bit.
Jacob's Ladder
Yeah.
scenario. Well, Rich, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, real
morbid-
head scratcher.
Yeah, really, I think I said a lot of detail that people weren't expecting about myself. But let's dive into a little bit more about Supernatural. And we'll start off with a synopsis. After losing their mother to a supernatural force, the brothers were raised by their father as soldiers who track mysterious and demonic creatures, which, as a synopsis, I feel is leaving a few details. What brothers? Where are they? How do they do said things? And Max, I'm hoping you can tell me how this all happened.
Today, we are talking about the pilot of Supernatural, which aired on September 13th, 2005 on the WB. And we're going to be talking about the show's creator and writer, a gentleman by the name of Eric Kripke today. So in 1998, Kripke's short film Truly Committed, a horror film about a couple that kills together, received the Audience Award at the Slam Dance Film Festival. Its success nets Kripke a deal with DreamWorks to develop screenplays for the studio, but this only resulted in years of writing projects that went nowhere. In 2003, Kripke develops a modern-day version of Tarzan for the WB, set in New York City, which lasted 8 episodes and is referred to by Kripke himself as, quote, a piece of crap. However, working with the WB presented Kripke with an opportunity to pitch additional ideas to the network, including one idea he'd been pitching around town for a few years at that point about tabloid reporters driving around the country fighting demons. The network likes the road trip idea that showcased these events happening in small towns, but wasn't sold on the tabloid angle. Kripke changes the leads to brothers, originally named Sal and Dean, as a direct homage to Jack Kerouac's On the Road, with the last name Harrison, a nod to Harrison Ford. Ford becomes Winchester, a nod to the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, a historical landmark in the city known for its hauntings and spooky history. WB keeps its casting in-house with familiar faces to the network, with Jensen Ackles of Smallville and Dawson's Creek and Jared Padalecki of Gilmore Girls. The two were actually the final two for the role of Sam before they decided, why not test them together with Jensen reading for Dean? The show's a collaborative process, with Season 1 featuring a 6-person writer's room with additional support staff just to help research urban legends for episode ideas. The pilot was filmed in Los Angeles, though additional production later shifted to Vancouver, marking this show safe for my favorite pilot trope. Today's pilot is directed by David Nutter, nicknamed the Pilot Whisperer, for having 16 pilots he directed picked up the series. Nutter is a 3-time Emmy winner, known for his work with Band of Brothers, The X-Files, The Sopranos, and later Game of Thrones. And a final note today just for Rich. Kripke wanted the soundtrack to sound like the rock radio stations he grew up with in Ohio. When the network pressured him to lose the Boston and Foreigner cuts to appeal to WB's younger audience, he put his foot down, telling the suits, if you try to change my music, I quit.
Holy shit.
Oh, Costco CEO energy. I love it.
Okay, but he was right, because the only reason I know any classic rock is because I watched 15 seasons of Supernatural.
Whoa.
And I actually kind of like it, and I didn't think I would, and they kind of tricked me into liking it.
Here's what happened when I watched this. I watched it on Netflix instead of Amazon, and they did not have the music rights in the version that I watched. So I got none of the radio. So I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about, which sucks. So, because it had AC/DC and what is it? Eagles of Death Metal, and
Allman Brothers,
Allman Brothers, yeah. That was like, I'm really upset that I didn't get a version with that.
I was rocking out to this playlist the entire soundtrack of this.
Why do they do that?
Well,
it's such an important. Why get the rights to something if you can't have like the full experience of the show?
I mean, Dawson's Creek, they do not have the rights to the theme song. Same thing with Charmed on Netflix. So I'm like, this is wrong. This doesn't feel right. This feels like, you know how when...
Feels like half a show.
Icky. Icky is the word.
When you write with your left hand because you're like just trying out to feel what it feels like.
Or do other things with your left hand, you know?
I said right. I said right.
Korama said right.
I said right.
Let the record show.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's dive into Supernatural a little bit more. And let's start off with just a common understanding. If you identify as a woman and you are on a college campus, watch the fuck out, because we start off in Lawrence, Kansas with Rock Chalk Jayhawks, where we find out that our family, why are we here this evening, with two young children, and we see our first supernatural event with a small cameo from Jeffrey Dean Morgan as well in this episode. This episode starts off literally with a bang, in the idea of seeing a character that we find to be the main character just die in front of us in one of the most horrifying ways I could ever imagine. How did y'all feel, Max and Rich, since this was your first time seeing this pilot, seeing this woman just get combust on a ceiling?
Yeah, left me with a lot of questions.
That's horrifying, but there could have also been two horrifying incidents in this house, because they left a newborn baby covered in a blanket alone in its crib. That's a suffocation hazard. That's absolutely terrible parenting.
But, if you think about the year, it was 22 years before
they
2005.
Had no idea. Yeah.
The guidance was different.
We didn't know that babies breathed back then.
we thought they absorbed oxygen through their skin. That's how it works. They don't have fully developed lungs yet. It's just how
Jeff,
it works.
All of the oxygen is getting sucked out of that room by the woman spontaneously combusting on the ceiling.
Look, we're all right.
Oh, okay.
The way that this episode begins, I feel like, is, as we talk about who directed this pilot and just script writing, it's such a good way to get an audience to fully buy in of like, oh, holy shit, why? Like, why did this all happen? Do we find out in this episode? No. But am I interested in finding out more? 100% yes. Korama, diving back into this pilot for the first time in, a week? How did you...
That is offensive. It has been at least 6 months.
Which for Korama is 10 years.
Oh my god. What are your feelings of like this being our introduction to our main family of this universe?
Rewatching the pilot as a whole, I was just like, oh, this is good. This is like, I find this to be a well-written pilot in terms of what it needs to communicate. We can talk about whether we like it, whether it's effective in getting us to continue watching things. But me, with the full knowledge of the 15 years of show, I'm like, actually, this is like really excellent. And I think that the things that come back from it later, good entry point. We see that, there's this horrific event that is going to shape these people's lives forever. We see Sam and Dean sort of wanting to care for Sam and be like caring about his little brother and being like, oh, I'm a big brother. And I think we get a fair amount of character that then gets backed up by the rest of the episode, in my opinion.
So fast forward, we're now in present day of 2005 in Palo Alto. We get to see Adrian Padalecki and Jared Padalecki, the two most... What did I do, Max? Because
I laugh at those two being in a scene together. I feel like in my
so
head
silly.
The most Polish names you could have together in a scene.
Yeah, Rich was hooked at that point. I feel like I'm doing the really dumb David Letterman Oscars bit where he's like, Oprah, Uma, Oprah. Like, it's like, Padalecki.
It's like, oh man, I know it smells like cabbage in there.
I think that this does...
I can say it.
Oh my god. So this scene of like seeing Sam in modern day, not seeing 22 years of his life it's an interesting choice of showing like, oh, he went off and it seems like he's a well-adjusted human being for the most part. Like, having an interview with Stanford with a possible full ride to go to law school seems like he's doing pretty fucking great.
I like that they set this scene at Halloween because supernatural.
Spooky.
Because spooky.
Because
and he doesn't like Halloween.
Yeah, he doesn't dress up.
Like it.
He is that guy, and that's the worst guy at
He's
a Halloween party.
He's the guy in a rom-com who hates Valentine's Day, but he's gonna love Valentine's Day by the end of the movie. I know it.
No, they hate Halloween the whole show.
Really? That's so dumb.
Well, I guess bad stuff keeps happening.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, it's such an interesting choice, and like, this is the one scene of this show that if we were to, and I'm curious from y'all's perspective, if we were to look at this show from a sky view, like an aerial view of what scene didn't belong in this pilot, the party scene at a college just seemed very off in the idea of like, oh, we're trying to throw y'all off that it's not all supernatural. Like, it's not all about ghosts and ghouls and demons and zombies and shit like that.
It's the most other type of WB show scene. It's also the only time in the pilot where I distinctively felt like this took place in 2005 because of the Huxtable family joke.
Oh, yeah. It's like, we're not exactly the Huxtables. I'm like, you don't know how good that's about to be.
Awkward.
So, bring that guy back for the finale.
Who, Bill Cosby?
No.
Oh my gosh. We meet adult Dean, right? In this almost like intruder sort of scene, and
hot. Very hot.
Jensen Ackles just absolutely destroys in this scene of being like an asshole but charming at such a great level. Like, the Riz coming off this man.
God, that's become your new favorite word.
It is my new favorite word.
I thought it was supposed to be the
Jeff
Gen Zer.
Is right. Jeff is right. It is Riz. That's all it is.
It's 100%.
You can't call it anything else.
Like, for him to be staring directly at, I forget what Adrian's character's name was. Who gives a shit?
Jessica.
Okay. At Jessica's breasts. And just be like, oh, I wouldn't dream of you changing. And her just being like, I'm sort of cool with it. Like, that was the vibe she was giving off. Like, that is undeniably Riz to, like, the nth degree. But I love how we get the idea of Sam being... Max, it's the Passover question, right? Why are we here on this night? And it is that...
Why'd you single out Max?
Because Max always asks on every single episode of this podcast.
Why is today different from all other days? It's one of the most effective ways to start a pilot.
When I teach,
this is why there's so many Jewish writers.
Yeah, when I teach pilot writing to the kids that I work with, I always frame it that way, and I'm like, "Do any of you know what Passover is?" And you don't have the Rugrats episode to sort of point to.
Yeah, they famously burned that episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my god.
Yes. Too controversial. The children don't watch Rugrats anymore, so I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah, because we had a plague, so you can't have one on TV anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that the idea of your past coming back to haunt you, and I very intentionally use that word of haunt, is such a fun way of us thinking like, okay, cool, something happened to Dad. We have to go hunting, and then learning details and exposition through a road trip is such a fun device. Max, Rich, are you in? Are you in on this road trip? We're going to a town in California I have never fucking heard of.
I don't know that it's real.
Exactly. That's even better for us.
Oh my god, it's not on the map.
Yeah, they went to the Here Be Dragons part of California, but I'm not bought in yet. Because for me, the plot is like sexy Ghostbusters right now, and I don't think it feels it's like Crime of the Day, but with supernatural beings, and I'm like, we just did the X-Files
they call that
last year.
Monster of the Week.
Monster of the Week. Yeah. Oh, okay, I like that.
You've never
I think
heard
that's
that
what they
term
call
before?
it. No, is that a Law and Order SVU term?
Oh my god. Oh god.
I do want to address something. Within the fandom, particularly the fan fiction of Supernatural, there is a lot of Sam Dean fan fiction.
Oh no,
Yes.
not Sam Dean, brother / fic.
No.
And
I could have gone my whole life without hearing that.
I'm glad you're bringing this up, Korama.
and like
Well, I'm glad you are, Jeff.
I don't read that. I don't personally read that. I know it
But
exists.
you do write it, and that's important.
I just close my eyes while I write it, so I don't have to look. It's
just comes
not.
out of
I
you.
didn't come up. Yeah, it's just it comes out of me fully formed like Athena. But watching the pilot, I'm like, oh, I get where people got that from. I'm really seeing it now, just like re-watching it since the end of the show and sort of circling back. I'm like, oh yeah, gross. But also, like, you could take most of their interactions, and if they weren't brothers, you'd be like, oh, so they want to fuck.
Well, then
it's
there's
Mulder
also
and Scully.
there's the adult parody Supernaturals.
Oh, god damn it.
So let's talk about our monster of the week in this instance of what was Jeffrey Dean Morgan after, and we have this great sort of introduction of this woman in white on the side of the road who then goes in a unsuspecting gentleman's car and then it appears explodes his head, which is just like I was not prepared for the blood splatter that we got, but like there's no way there's a head left in that car. It is, I have to believe, absolutely gone.
God, men are so stupid. Men are just so stupid and so horny and just no logic or reasoning. There's this spectral haunted being in your car saying, "Will you come home with me?" And this 2005 Hollister model guy's like, hell yeah.
Like the only way that could have been more of like a stereotype situation is if he was wearing a Letterman's jacket when he picked her up.
I guess from a writing perspective, I was really excited to see the use of like a very traditional horror principle of like people who sin in horror movies die. Like that is a very consistent theme that is like I find really funny because it's just like, you know, horror movies and the Bible have a lot in common if you come to think of it. And it's just like, okay, Pastor Jeff. But
that's why
like,
Cameron Crowe made so many of those horror movies.
But having this be our villain is a very nice, easy way of relationship building to allow for Korama to write fan fiction of, you know, Sam and Dean.
I just want to go on record saying that is a joke. That is a joke. I don't write that. I'm not talented enough.
No.
Yeah,
But-
you know, don't look up Korama Danquah online.
Wow, the perfect crime.
Jeff's gonna really selectively edit that, and it's gonna be like, I do write that. I am talented enough.
If you don't think there's going to be a TikTok being like, we got Korama to admit her pen name on the podcast,
It's
you're
just gonna
insane.
be the worst edited clip. It's gonna look like a jib jab video.
But I would love to. A lot of this episode is detective work, right? And I think that's the fun part of this. There's a lot of different detective shows. Having a supernatural angle on it is what makes this show different. What were your thoughts seeing the guys in action, actually hunting, actually, like, you know, committing identity fraud throughout the entirety of the episode? I guess, Korama, just easing back into the pilot, seeing this energy, what were you thinking?
First of all, I was like, they look like babies. They're so cute. They're so little.
Now they're all 60.
Yeah, like probably like 40
they're,
at least.
they're probably early 50s. I mean,
I don't think they're early 50s. I think
if they were 30 in 2005,
they weren't 30.
There's a
They might
very
have been.
easy way to solve this question that you guys are
no,
having.
Jeff, don't you do that.
While Jeff is Googling, I'm going to continue. I think that it's interesting for me easing back into it and seeing, like, not to give away too much, but their resources later on in the show are vastly different.
Mhm.
And getting to watch them sort of improv, essentially, on the fly, figure out, like, oh, we're marshals. Oh, we're his uncles. And do the legwork in a different way than I'm used to from seeing seasons 10, 12, 15, was really fun because they're really, like, creative and interesting. And I like them. I just like them. They're likable boys.
The hijinks of it all is probably my favorite part of this. Like the road trip elements and the hijinks, because we've seen all this before in detective shows. We've seen fake plates, fake IDs, fake stories to get what you want, and it's fun to see it by two guys who are kind of, like, young and dirty and schlubby, finding a way to pull it off and learning about it in real time. And also, again, it's that, the big brother teaching the little brother. You get that kind of passing of the torch. This is going to be Sam's first time really as an adult having to learn to do these things. Also, this show, it's a champion for physical media. I love all of the cassette tapes in the car. It insults me that Sam is so down on Motorhead and Black Sabbath. You're going to learn, kid. You'll get better at this.
So do you guys think, I think one reason that I was still, like, 1 foot out on this episode was the why of them teaming up to go hunt these, like, specters and, like, the big bad, the monster of the week. Like, it didn't seem compelling enough for Sam to pull himself out of it, or if that makes sense. Maybe I'm...
Well, I think, Rich, it's them kind of finding the monster of the week. 'Cause this originally starts as, we need to find Dad, and then they kind of discover that Dad was following a lead, and in finding Dad, they immerse themselves in that more. But I think all of it is them trying to find their father. They just find themselves engrossed in this story as a byproduct of it.
Yeah, they both also seem a little bit unenthused with their dad, if that makes sense too. Like, because they know, it seems like they've also, like, known his hijinks for the last, like, however long as well.
By hijinks, do you mean alcoholism?
Yes. Which, like, for me, I'm like, okay, well, because the compelling thing is, like, if you're growing up with, like, the trauma of seeing your solo parent, like, deal with that and stuff like that, and, like, it didn't feel like Sam was super keen on wanting to go in general. Like, the why still wasn't strong enough for me. Like, what's the pilot writing phrase? It's like they have to, like, the incapability of saying no or something like that. Like, you have to, or like I mean, Korama, you're literally a teacher about it, but it's like you have to be on that journey. It's not just like
it's not just like I'll go for this. I honestly feel that way about the movie Frozen. I don't know why Anna goes after Elsa, because I'm like, that bitch has been ignoring you for 10 years. I see what you're saying. I think, though, that they're trauma bonded. I think Sam and Dean are trauma bonded from the way that they grew up.
Definitely.
And their dad hunts. That's what he does. That's, like, his job.
It's also the idea of, like, being raised by a sibling. You feel that sort of level of commitment in both instances. In the Frozen instance as well. Like,
but in Frozen, she wasn't raised by Elsa. I have a lot of questions about Frozen that we can't get into today. But I think that to him saying no to Dean is almost impossible. If there is a way that he can do it and make the interview, then he'll do it. He's like, fine, I'll help you look for Dad, because that's what we do. And also, I just want to make sure our dad hasn't been eaten by a vampire or whoever.
And think from Dean's perspective as well, right? Or, like, Sam's perspective as well. This could officially be the closing of the door on his past before he has his law school interview, and then just goes off into the sunset, where Supernatural beings is not a thing that you're dealing with on a day-to-day. You're dealing with another type of monster of the week, Rich. But let's talk about the
alcoholism.
Let's talk about the solving of this case, and sort of the closing of this pilot, because I love them using the woman in white as our monster of the week, in the idea that it is a very sad story. It's a sad legend. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what it is, I highly recommend watching this pilot, because they do an excellent job. And
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do they do these monsters of the week, like the monster of the week situation, in a similar style of the? Thank you so much. It's a monster of the week weekly. Do they do
Monthly.
it in a similar style of like X-Files, where they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do an episode on this like real UFO report, we're gonna do an episode on like the Jersey Devil, we're gonna do an episode on like, you know, things that are like known. They're not making these things up. Like it's like
they had a research team.
I was going to say, if you listened to Max at the beginning of this episode, you would know that it is ripped from the headlines. Richard
ADHD strikes again.
I do think that it is interesting, though. I think it's interesting that they take not just like specific, like there's an understanding that it's culturally broad. And that they're like, oh, no, we are not the ones that have the correct monsters. Everyone's monsters are possible. Mm-hmm. Here's a monster from Japan that maybe you, our American audience, has never heard of before. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have some fun exposition where we tell you about what a kitsune is or whatever.
Nice.
So there's a scene that I absolutely love where we find out what happened. Why is this woman this way? The meeting with her husband, or the widow that just exists on the farm, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was gonna get dead. Like I thought she was gonna come find him through the car and like run him over and then be like, you dead. But like
leftovers him, so to speak.
Yeah, very much.
Thank you.
That when you come back to the leftovers a few days later and finish them, that's what I thought was going to happen. But I love how we get this conclusion to this monster. Throughout this pilot, I almost thought of it as like adult Scooby-Doo, but the monsters are real, right? Where like we do have this comedy, we do have this like what is the mystery of it all, but
when
rather
Sam
than
ate that giant 6-foot party sub in one bite.
Guys, I just want to tell you there is a Supernatural Scooby-Doo crossover episode.
Oh, I'm fucking in right now.
Why did we do the pilot?
Guys, we need to rethink the entire concept of this podcast.
God damn it.
Just Scooby-Doo from now on.
Yeah, no, it's only Scooby-Doo. We are a Scooby-Doo podcast now. But after our crime is solved, or our mystery is solved, while we have a clue of where is Jeffrey Dean Morgan, we haven't found him yet, but we do have another spontaneous combustion on a college campus just 22 years later. How were you sitting, like, as this is the end of our pilot, what feelings were y'all left with of seeing Adrian Padalecki burst in flames on top of a ceiling?
Obviously, when Sam gets dropped back off at Stanford on campus, you know this is not going to be the pleasant end of the episode. That would be too easy. This is not going to be a show that puts a neat little bow on things. I love the callback to it just being the single drop of blood falling that we saw early on. I think it's a fun way to tie it back, that you know what to expect, that this is bigger than them. Like there's going to be like an overarching thing to this series. More shows should end with its lead cocking a gun and saying, we've got work to do. That's a really badass way to end your pilot. But I think and there's so much we didn't even touch on. This is a really dense episode of TV. But to be able to bookend it as nicely as they did, I think is really effective.
Craft. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's craft. Like I said, I think that this is a really good pilot episode. I think that it is well structured. I think that it does all of the work that it needs to do. Like the amount of information that later I just took for granted. I'm like, oh, they established that in the pilot. That wasn't a thing that I found out
That's
3
awesome.
episodes later. That's crazy.
Rich, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Korama coming back and like having watched all of this and saying, oh, this actually like is what the show is, and that far into it. I mean, it's not saying that it's what it stays, but like the fact that you like, I mean, one of the reasons that we started this podcast is that like some of our favorite shows have these pilots that don't feel like the show at all, and they like have a terrible way of introducing characters and like, you know, a terrible way of introducing their whys and stuff like that. And the fact that this doesn't is like pretty impressive.
So as we said, this is a very dense pilot. We did not cover every single element of plot point, story, jokes that were made. Were there things that you loved about this pilot that maybe we didn't cover, but you think deserve a little bit more shine?
We kind of wrapped this part up quickly, but there's like a double all is lost moment in this pilot that I really enjoyed, with Dean getting taken in for faking being a U.S. Marshal while Sam gets picked up by our woman in white. And I think it just really, it's invigorating. It's exciting to see both of our leads in that. How are they going to get out of this one situation? And I like that they affect both of theirs. It's like they have to both find their way out of a situation. It is exciting.
What about you, Korama?
A trope that gets done throughout is them using these fake names, and I love that we get a clip of Dean being a little impish rascal in police custody, being like, "I told you, my name is Ted Nugent."
Yeah.
I keep telling you, I don't know what to tell you.
Me at the jukebox after 6 beers.
But I do think there's a lot of humor that exists, particularly in the not incestuous banter between Sam and Dean.
It's not inherently incestuous.
No, I said not. I said not.
I know. I know what you said.
I think that it's hard to relay the ease with which I believe that these two men are brothers. And it's sort of like the driver picks the songs and the passenger shuts his cake hole, and just like, I'm like, yeah, that's his older brother. 100%.
Rich?
I love the thought process of him firing a gun at a ghost. That was pretty cool.
So many guns at ghosts in this show.
It's good to know that they don't learn from it.
They do. They shoot. I'll tell you a little more later.
yeah. I mean, this is the place for spoilers, but I definitely like that. Guys will see this and say, "Hell yeah!" That was. I was like, "Yeah, keep firing at that ghost. I'm sure that's gonna work."
It did. He saved his life. Did it kill the ghost? No, but did it slow the ghost? Yes.
It distracted that
also,
ghost.
We don't know.
That ghost is also scared of guns, very much like myself. As far as myself, I think that the chemistry between our two main leads is undeniable in this show. Like, I could absolutely see them doing a chemistry read and everyone in the room being like, cool, so we have at least 10 seasons of a show, and then they all got surprised when they were like, what if we had 5 more seasons on top of that? Because that's absolutely insane. And it's awesome to see a pilot where everyone is gelling from the jump. Because sometimes, especially in these shows where it is such a heavy dynamic on our two main stars, we don't always get that. And we are asking questions when we watch these pilots of like, so like the chemistry was off, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something that should definitely, be applauded. What about wait a minute moments? What were things that caused you pause on this pilot?
I know that therapy for men wasn't invented until the 2010s, but Dean going into a fit of rage and slamming Sam into the side of a bridge for stating that their mother is dead is probably a little extreme. Probably some things he needs to unpack there.
Oh my god.
It's dude wipes, but for your brain.
Rich, Rich, what about yourself?
There is one moment in, like, I want to say the first 4 minutes of this pilot where they give the most ham-fisted exposition dump of all time that I had to write it down verbatim. Okay. Don't be afraid of the dark. Of course you should be afraid of the dark. You know what's out there. Yeah, but still the way we grew up after mom was killed and dad's obsession to find the thing that killed her. But we still haven't found the damn thing, so we kill everything we can find. Save a lot of people doing it, too. Good God. Good. It's so much easier to write. It's so much easier than writing a story. If you just write a summary description of that story in about a sentence.
It sounds bad when you say it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Those are two professional actors saying it.
I thought that they said it great. When you read it, I was like, wow, that's not good. But it is actually a testament to, for me at least, I was like, yeah, no, they kill everything they can. One, because they're two hot men. Two, because they really are. I felt the frustration and the tension between them in this moment where it's like, I need you to help me find dad. It's like, I don't want to relive that. That was what was coming out to me, but it is a little ham-fisted. I will agree with you.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I did it.
Jeff, what about you? Did you have any wait a minute moments?
This isn't a wait a minute moment as much as a thing that I loved, but is also a wait a minute moment. And I love this show had such a dark color palette. And there were many scenes that were filmed in complete darkness. And I love when you have two actors that don't understand fight choreography, so you just take two stuntmen and have them fight instead, and then it suddenly becomes bright in the room, and there are our main actors. I love a brother fight where the brothers aren't actually fighting, and it's just two guys who are in there for that scene and that scene alone. A+, if you can spot it when you watch this pilot on Amazon or Netflix, more credit to you. We do have one in-flight question, though, that I'm actually very excited about. And that is, during Supernatural, the boys iconically drive a 1967 Chevy
Impala.
What car would you want to drive around solving mysteries of the supernatural variety?
Oh, I got it. There is this Toyota Tacoma camper that they like. I keep getting ads for, but it's like not a real car like right now, and I think they're really trying to drum up interest for it being a real car. But it's a Tacoma, like it's called the Tacozilla, and I don't know, I don't know how. I'm trying to send you guys a link to it, but it is like a 70s / like Ghostbuster type like color scheme on it, but it's also like a pretty sick looking camper that you can live in. So I'm going Tacozilla all the way.
Oh, this thing's a fucking banger.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
I would do a hybrid Honda Civic.
Oh, okay.
I've got. Go ahead, Carl.
I want good gas mileage, and I don't want to stand out. That's what I want.
Max, what about you?
So I've got two on the opposite ends of the spectrum here. I've got the classic Pontiac Aztec because it could fit all of my hunting gear. And then on the other end, I have the Sunbeam Alpine, which was the first ever James Bond car, because I like when a classic car kind of looks like it has a face on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the headlights kind of look like eyes, and the grill kind of looks like a mouth being like, let's hunt the monsters. You know what I'm talking about.
So I feel like if you're driving around the country, you're road tripping, Korama, you absolutely want really good mileage. But you also want to be very inconspicuous. You don't want to stand out. And
Honda Civic.
I mean, the Honda Civic's definitely on my mind, but I want to stand out just a little bit. So I'm going to drive a smart car around, and it's going to be tight. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be ornery as hell. But I think that I'm going to be spending so little money on gas
Plus
that
you
I'm
can
going to
park
be a
it
little
anywhere
bit
you want.
happier. Exactly. Anywhere. I can park at any crime
But
scene.
Jeff, the way that you would bounce off that dilapidated house like a beach ball.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for that in-flight question. We'll definitely be talking about how to submit those later in the episode. But a quick history of this show. imagine being on TV so long that you helped transition the WB into being the CW, because this show premiered on the final year that the WB existed.
Wow.
And then it was one of the like star shows for the CW when they were like, we're the CW now. Like, we have Supernatural now. And people were like, oh, that's fun. 15 seasons and 327 episodes, which is, you know, that's nuts. As far as ratings go, this is CW, right? We're not talking about your major networks. This was 131st of the most watched shows, but in 2016, it actually had its highest watched season as far as average viewership, with about 3.81 million per episode.
What was that, season 11?
Math. So as far as marketing for the show, marketing and advertising, I love looking it up because like promoting a show is tough and it is hard, and you have the traditional outlets, but you also have the non-traditional, such as working at gas stations, doing Livestrong rubber bracelets, and then coffee sleeves that also, when they heated up, they showed a woman stuck on a ceiling on the coffee sleeve, which is bonkers. And
not to mention the Santana album.
They also the show did some really creative things with, like, they had clues, or they did like little guerrilla stunts where, like, if you heard a website on the show, they would buy the domain and make that a real life website. If you heard a phone number, such as Sam says his actual phone number on the show, you could call in and leave a voice message for Sam. So like,
they pulled a Soulja Boy?
Yeah, they pulled a lot of Soulja Boys. There were multiple spin-off series for this show, a ton of them, including an anime show, a show about Sam's life before the show begins. So the 22 years in between, we find out about that as well. There is even, I have to give credit, when there's a rewatch podcast, and if you really like this pilot, I have to recommend you follow the series. Their rewatch podcast is called Supernatural Then and Now, and you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, congrats on the show. This is a syndicated show since 2010, so make that paper and get that extra money in your wallet. As far as awards, 154 nominations, 26 wins. That includes a Critics' Choice Award for Jensen Ackles for the final season of this show. Okay. Yes, he did beat out Jared for the award win. It was for Best Actor in a Horror. So like that's just awkward. Sitting at that award show, knowing that one of you will at least lose. And they even also received 3 Primetime Emmy Awards, or nominations, excuse me. 1 for sound editing and 2 for music composition. But that is this very large multi-season show's history.
Music composition for bitchinest soundtrack.
Well, Rich, it is now time for your game of the week.
Yeah, I didn't go crazy off the rails with this one, unfortunately, but I did want to give a little bit of super trivia. So each one of these questions are they're for individual answering. So first one is for Max. The textbook definition of a super cow is A, cow bred for high milk production, B, a cow weighing over 2,000 pounds, C, a cow with 99 percentile intelligence, D, a cow that can see through walls.
God, I'm just thinking of Super Cow, Cow's alter ego from Cow and Chicken now. I am going to say a cow bred for heightened milk production.
That is correct. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I found out the word super cow and I had to put it in here. All right, Jeff. Oh, the song Supermassive Black Hole was used in what blockbuster film? This is why I didn't give it to Korama. A, Guy Ritchie's Sherlock Holmes. B, The Social Network. D, John Wick. D, Twilight. Or C, John Wick. D, Twilight.
It was Twilight.
Okay.
I read every single book. Of course, I saw the movie.
Of the three of you, I thought that you would have the lower chance.
It's the baseball scene.
Rich, I read that show does the best with baseball I have ever seen. There's not a more accurate baseball film that has ever existed.
Oh my God.
Don't.
It's crazy how... No, it's literally crazy how Twilight invented baseball.
Yeah, no.
Like,
They
did
might
not
have.
exist pre-2008.
They definitely
They've been
invented the
alive
night
forever.
game.
They might have invented baseball. They're all doing leg kicks like they're named Mordecai Three-Finger Jones.
I just want to say, though, the Twilight vampires are actually, by and large, not that old, which makes it weirder. Like, Edward was born in, like, 1895 or something like that.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was.
Like,
I think he had the Spanish flu or something like that. I think that.
yes,
yeah.
that's exactly what happened.
From fucking 96 feet away, I sunk that.
Oh, they invented basketball too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Rich, thanks.
Of course. And I was unaware of your Twilight game, Jeff. Did you know? I also found out in the researching for this question, because obviously I already knew the answer. I had to work backwards. Did you know that Guy Ritchie was married to Madonna? I didn't.
Yes, that's the only reason I know who Guy Ritchie
really?
is. Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know what that man
his
does.
movies got a lot worse afterwards. Anyways, Korama.
His muse.
Nice. Korama, a supercomputer, is generally defined by how many operations per second it can perform. The unit of measurement is the acronym A, whoops, B, flops, C, scoops, D, bloops.
I'm sorry. So it was whoops,
What?
flops, scoops,
And bloops.
And bloops. Okay. I feel like it has to be bloops.
It is actually flops. In fact, it is. Oh God, it was floating something. I don't have the page up anymore. But there's also gigaflops and petaflops and teraflops, which is.
Wait, are you saying that being in your flop era is an acronym?
Yeah, it's. Yeah,
Oh
just
my
like
God.
charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Oh my gosh. Well, Rich, thank you for your super game of the week. Before our flight comes to a land, I have two questions for each of you. One is, based off this pilot and this pilot alone, would you give Supernatural maybe one or two, or maybe watch the entire series of episodes? And then my second question, this show only recently went off the air, so I'm not going to say bring it back right now. But during my research, there were a lot of spin-offs that initially got the okay and then weren't fully greenlit. Do you think that a show like this, a show with this sort of vibe, should be on TV right now, or does have a place where it can live? Korama, I'm gonna ask you first.
Okay, I'm so glad you asked me first. So would I continue watching this show? Yes, I already did. 15 seasons worth. Watching it again, though, like if I were to watch that episode of TV not having seen it before, I think I would also continue watching it. I don't know that I would watch all 15 seasons. I'd probably stop after season 5, because season 5 is like, the first 5 seasons are the holy grail of this show. They're like incredible as a unit. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
So there were a lot of spin-offs. Do you think a show of this vibe belongs on TV right now?
Two things about that. One, the spinoff that I'm most disappointed didn't take off was the one about like female hunters, because this show is very aggressively male. There are not very many women that last super long. Many of them die gruesome deaths. They are not able to connect with women on a large scale in any way. And I would have loved to see what it's like to be a woman in this world of hunting, especially because if you're going to like different cities and putting yourself in danger as a woman, what does that mean? How do you protect yourself in different ways? The other thing about this, I think that the show Evil on CBS kind of occupies that space now, at least for me. I love Evil on CBS, or I guess now it's on Paramount Plus, but that's my show. And I think that it sort of takes this Monster of the Week thing and grounds it in religion, which is a thing that we didn't talk about a ton for this show, but Jericho is a site of a biblical battle, and the walls of Jericho fell after the seventh day of, I think, the Israelites walking around the walls. And when you see the road sign, it says Jericho 7. So I don't think that that's an accident. There's a lot of biblical information that comes through on this show as you keep going. And you do meet God at a certain point.
You gotta.
And when you first meet him, you don't know it's him, too. So it's super fun when you're
It's
like, wait,
Richard
you're
Kind.
God?
It sounds like another show that we all really love called John from Cincinnati.
Oh my god.
But I think that there will always be a place for a supernatural type show, both in the general noun and the proper noun of supernatural.
Max, what are you thinking?
For me, this is definitely a structurally sound pilot, and I think it's a good example of how to do the genre. I don't think this is a show that I would continue to go back to personally. Just a matter of opinion. As for could a spinoff or some version exist, I do think so. We have a rich history of supernatural detective shows occupying space on primetime TV. There's a lot of procedurals and a lot of sci-fi right now, but I don't there's a lot of things that are doing that lane in the middle. So I certainly think this could find a home and an audience still in some way, shape, or form.
Rich, what about you?
I'm still 50-50 on carrying on a little bit more.
He needs to hear the version with the Allman Brothers.
Yeah,
in it.
I gotta be honest. I definitely think the experience is taken away not having the actual music rights to it, and also like Netflix. What the fuck? Why are you doing that? Why are you?
They are cheap.
Why are you buying a show? But it's just like it takes away such so much from the actual experience. It's like, oh, what if we got this version of Gilmore Girls, but only Lorelai talks? You know what I mean? And it's so weird. It's so weird. And it's just like, it's an infuriating choice. And for a network or a streaming service that literally put Kate Bush back to the top of the charts single-handedly, like, why are you not getting the rights for music? It is like, I don't know. It's very infuriating. If I, 15 seasons seems like enough, but Korama, you gave it really the old college try of like continuing on after seasons had hit like their like a diminishing return for you, and you carried on.
It comes back around. That's why I asked when Geoff said the highest viewership. I was like, was that season 11? Because I think season 6 through 10 were kind of and then seasons 11 through 14 were a little bit better, and then season 15 was just like, just die already.
Do you know what the attribution to that was, like specifically in season 11? Was it like a new showrunner?
I don't know from the outside. Like, I don't know what was going on with them, but I do know that there were like, I think season 10 was the one where they had a really dumb monster of like the season, Leviathans, and they were basically like giant cockroaches, and literally the way to kill them was with like borax, which you used to kill cockroaches. And I was just like, I'm out.
That sucks.
I'm emotionally out.
But yeah, I mean, crossing over with what Max said, like obviously there's place for a lot of these interests at once. A lot of smoldering actors and supernatural beings. That's a big audience out there. So I'm going to say, yeah, there's probably a place for another spinoff to happen.
Rich, just quick side note: if you want my password to also hear the Rory lines, I'll share it with you.
They're going to start cracking down August 1st.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to start this backwards. There was some news that came out that Ryan Coogler has been tapped to reboot X-Files. And I think that's a sign of the times of we do need sort of this spooky, supernatural, like crime duo space to be filled. There is a void, and like having more of this type of show could potentially fill that void perfectly. I don't know.
I hope it's not like, when they tapped Jordan Peele to do the Twilight Zone and then no one watched it. Like
I watched.
Yeah, the episodes were good,
too.
But
yeah,
but it felt like no one watched it. It like went off the air pretty quickly. Now
Well, it was on CBS All Access. That was part of the problem.
You're asking a lot.
CBS.
Yeah, you're asking a lot of people to watch that, to log in there. But as far as watching more of this show, I think that it is one that I want to give a shot. Because initially, this is not my most solid hell yeah. This is my, like, I need to see one more.
The drastic drop in Korama's face.
I need to see one more because I want to see a little bit of variation with the monster of the week. I want to see a little bit more development of the Sam and Dean characters. And if Jeffrey Dean Morgan shows up, I'll definitely watch more of it. But I don't know. He has to show up pretty soon, Korama.
You have to give them time to find him.
I know.
They're looking.
He gets 3 more episodes max before I see him.
Did you see how many cassettes were in his box, Jeff? We have so many more tunes to listen to.
But yeah, I think that this show deserves at least 1 to 2 more episodes of my viewership before I decide to bid it adieu. But that is our flight. That is our episode. Before we leave and send y'all out, Korama, thank you again for bringing us not only your delightful presence, but Supernatural. Where can folks find you if they would like to hear more of you and find more of you?
They can find me on AO3 writing my Sam Dean fanfics. I'm joking. You can follow me at Korama Drama on Instagram and on Threads, sometimes on TikTok, but very rarely.
Max, where can folks find you?
You can find me looking up all sorts of satanic mumbo jumbo and on all things social media at Maxwell Sing. You can find original sketch comedy for myself and Rich on TikTok at Dad Whack and Comedy.
Rich?
You can find me hanging out with Jim, Jack, and Jose, and you can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich.
I think you guys can find me in Scotland because I'm getting a call from the First Minister, Umza Yusuf. Don't know how long I'm going to be there, but I'm going to call him back. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube at TV Pilot's License. If you have an in-flight question for us, you're in frequent flyer and you have a question or maybe something you want us to watch next, give us a call at 213-290-1713 or shoot us an email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com. We share sneak previews of some of the things that we have coming up, and I'm really excited about some of the guests we have coming up as well. But for today, as the plane is landed and the seatbelt sign is off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world again with you soon. And until then, we got work to do.